Did you know that TYT now has a full audio network? On top of our existing lineup, this launch is gonna bring you brand new slate of podcasts, including Mouthy, Messy, Mandatory with Katie Anthony and Ronit Fanglass-Plank. Now that's a weekly show that discusses everything from family to really funny and fantastic women. To get more info on the show and the whole TYT audio network, visit tyt.com/audio.
Donald Trump has signed an executive order in response to the backlash that he and his administration have been facing over separating children from their families. Now, this is something that he has done unilaterally. Congress is also working on legislation, which we'll get to in just a moment. But first, let's dive into what Trump's executive order does. It does keep families together in detention. He was quoted as saying, "We have to maintain toughness." So let me just reiterate, the zero tolerance policy of detaining adult immigrants at the southern border would remain in place. They are still being prosecuted. They will be held in detention with their children as they face prosecution. So that is essentially what this executive order is. So is it more humane? A tad bit, because the kids won't be separated from their family, but essentially the children will essentially be imprisoned with their parents because they had the audacity to seek asylum. Now, I want to also quickly reiterate this misinformation that I'm seeing reported all over the place. There's this emphasis on people coming across the border illegally and how only those individuals are being affected by this. That is not the case. There have been numerous reports indicating that Border Patrol block people from going to these ports of entry, which by the way is unlawful. And there are also cases of people who do go to the port of entry and seek asylum, but because of this massive backlog, essentially what ends up happening is they get detained and prosecuted much like the other immigrants do, those who don't go through the port of entry. Now with that said, let's take a look at Trump signing this executive order.
We're gonna have strong, very strong borders, but we're going to keep the families together. I didn't like the sight or the feeling of families being separated. There's a problem that's gone on for many years, as you know, through many administrations, and we're working very hard on immigration. It's been just left out in the cold. People haven't dealt with it, and we are dealing with it. So step by step, just like we dealt with North Korea, we dealt with Iran, we dealt with an economy that was heading in the wrong direction. Okay, you're gonna have a lot of happy people.
Thank you, President.
Thank you.
President, why did you wait so long to defeat this coverage?
This has been going on for 60 years. 60 years, nobody's taken care of it. Nobody's had the political courage to take care of it, but we're going to take care of it.
So the only people who haven't had any political courage are the Republicans who have tucked tail and agreed with every immoral policy that Trump has pushed for because they're afraid of losing their positions in Congress. But this has not been a policy for the last 60 years. It hasn't. It's just complete lies, complete lies. And also, look, I'm seeing people on the left make the argument that this is also a policy that Obama had. No, Obama did not have this policy. Obama specifically did not prosecute people for seeking asylum. He did not. Now, were children held in detention because of the fact that they came here as unaccompanied minors? Yes, but they came here as unaccompanied minors without their parents. Obama didn't separate these children from their parents. Obama did not hold these children hostage to get some political win. And he certainly did not have a policy of prosecuting anyone who tried to come into the country.
So look, I'm going to explain what I think the law should be, and it's not a super easy answer. I think that there is a right way to balance it. But the idea that this has been the same problem in terms of the executive order that he is signing is not remotely true. It's a problem that has existed for 60 days, pretty much 2 months since Trump changed policy and said we're going to do zero tolerance, we're going to prosecute these misdemeanors for crossing the border. Obama did not have that policy, and neither did Trump until 2 months ago. So before they were not prosecuting those people, hence they were not separating them for their kids. So that part is simply not true.
Cenk, let me just also clarify one other thing because I did misspeak. So Obama detained the children for 20 days or less, or at least that was the policy implemented because he actually valued the Flores settlement. The Flores settlement essentially has regulations in place that do not allow the government to hold these children indefinitely, right? So what did end up happening is they were either they found family members in the United States who could care for the kids, or they placed the kids with a foster parent. And look, I get it, it's an underfunded situation, so we have lost track of a lot of these unaccompanied minors. But Trump's policy essentially exacerbated the issue.
So let me be further clear on that, because look, when a kid comes in unaccompanied, you don't have a choice. You have to put him somewhere until you could find a home for him. And according to the law, that's the Flores settlement that Anna's referring to, you must get them out of detention after 20 days because you don't want to hold these kids indefinitely. Now, we were fair because nobody went and said, when Trump was doing the same thing that Obama was doing, nobody went and said, I can't believe you're keeping these unaccompanied minors in detention for 20 days. Because that's the law, you have to until you find somewhere where they can go, right? This only became an issue 2 months ago when Trump added, by the way, it's not just for unaccompanied minors. Now, if you come in as a family, we're gonna do something new. We're gonna take your kids away and we're gonna put them in the detention center. Now, in the new proposals that they're putting forward, which is not part of this executive order, the executive order is simply like, okay, just keep them with the parents like we were doing before. Okay,
yeah.
In the new bills, they say, well, let's keep them together, but for a lot longer. Well, no. Look, it's a tough situation because you do have to keep them together, and if they're gonna, you can't say, hey, they're free to go, and you can't say, okay, I'm gonna take the babies away. That means that you do have to put the families in some sort of detention center for some period of time, okay? And the question is, what's the period of time? And well, the court settled that that's 20 days. So when Ted Cruz says, let's send in thousands of judges so we can actually get through all these cases in 2 weeks, and we could listen to what the court is saying and actually get these people out of the country. Now, I say, and a lot of human rights lawyers say 2 weeks is not enough.
Because you have to compile evidence to prove that you are an asylum seeker, and 2 weeks is not enough time in order to compile that evidence.
But there is a certain amount of time that we should all agree upon. That's why we have a Congress to make those laws. So if you said to me, well, they should stay for 2 years in a detention center while they're seeking asylum, I'd say, no, that sounds too long. 2 weeks is too short. So is the right number of days 20, like the Flores settlement says? Is it a month? Is it 2 months? If we had a functioning democracy, we'd have a rational conversation about that and come to a conclusion. We wouldn't just rip kids away from their parents, and we wouldn't act in this sporadic, unpredictable way that Trump is doing. I'm going to take him away. I'm going to put him back, etc.
So I disagree with keeping them in detention at all. And let me make my case. I understand that there is a real problem, a significant problem, a legitimate problem of people who have claimed asylum and then the whole catch and release thing, and then they're let go, they never show up to their court hearing. That is a legitimate problem. I don't understand why we don't use the same mechanisms that we've used for people out on bail or bond, like let's say those bracelets, the ankle bracelets.
We do give ankle bracelets,
right?
And so now Republicans are saying it's not enough, and in some cases, mainly because of bureaucracy, they don't bother to find the people with the ankle bracelets, right? Well, then okay, it's fair to say put more money in. Put more people to track them, put more money into making the detention centers bearable and not just cages, so that, and you can say, hey, they got TVs, good, God bless, right? But being outside for only 2 hours a day, that's prison, don't do that.
No, it's
let them out in a confined space, okay, we get it, etc. And Anna and I might disagree with conservatives out there, and we might say the ankle bracelet's perfectly good enough. We might say, hey, you know what, keep them in the detention center until we sort out where we're going to release them for 2 days, whatever the number is, right? And conservatives could fight back and say, no, we have to keep them in the detention center and it has to be either 2 weeks or 2 months. Those are conversations and debates that need to be had, okay?
Yes.
And then you sort that out in Congress.
Right.
But we rip your kids away and figure it out later is not the right way to handle it. And Trump almost never backs down, but he was so overwhelmingly wrong here and he'd lost the country so badly that even Trump was like, okay, we're gonna make a lot of people happy here by reversing what you originally said.
But by the way, he's not making a lot of people happy because as I mentioned, the cruelty level of what he was previously doing was here and this executive order takes it down to here. And what I mean by that is look, Trump is demanding that we get rid of the Flores settlement. And the proposals that we're seeing from Congress right now do exactly that, in addition to funneling more money, taxpayer money, toward this nonsensical wall, right? And they want to get rid of other protections. By the way, something that everyone should keep their eye on, the New Yorker is reporting that the next immigration issue that the Trump administration wants to focus on is naturalized citizens and whether or not any of these people have lied on any of their forms. Because if they have, then they could lose citizenship.
Well, there's credible evidence that there is one naturalized citizen who lied on her forms. Her name is Melania Trump. We did that story earlier. Have at it, Hoss. You want to go after her first? And by the way, there's credible evidence that her parents also did not tell the truth in their forms. But my guess is they're not going to go after white people. So when you say you're against illegal immigrants, I might disagree with you on the different policies, but I understand you're saying, hey, they're breaking the law and we can't let everybody in the country. When you say you're going after illegal immigrants, and this is the third way that they're going after illegal immigrants, then you're not saying that you're against this situation because of breaking the law. You're just against immigrants. And I've never seen them complain about Swedish immigrants. So these policies are based on race. Yes, they are, absolutely. So I want to be clear. I think I just outlined in what I think is a really fair way the contours of the debate that Democrats and Republicans should have about how we hold people who come into the country illegally, right? But in that bill, as Anna points out, there are two other things. The naturalized citizens they're going to get to later. The two other things are end the visa lottery. And by the way, you can make a case for that. I would disagree with you, but I understand that, and that could be back and forth on whether we do that or not. But the second thing that they want to go after, but visa lottery is legal immigration, so let's be clear. Second way they're going to go after legal immigration is end family-based visas. Well, that's the overwhelming majority of how people do legal immigration.
They do not want immigration. They do not want legal immigration. They want to clamp down on that as much as possible. Look, I understand the desire for politicians to want to do something about undocumented immigration. I totally understand that. But you have to understand what the Trump administration's real agenda is. And their real agenda is the white population is, they think, under attack somehow, and we need to prevent the others from coming in by any means necessary. So what are Republicans in Congress proposing right now? Keep in mind, they're not even having a discussion with Democrats. I have an issue with the Democrats not being aggressive enough on this. I get that they don't have much power, but I haven't heard much from Democrats other than we disagree with what's going on. That's not enough.
Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.